following a reminder to meeting attendees, this is a formal meeting of the Town Council, and I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to agree to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. And I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. May I please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking? Thank you very much. Okay, into item 1, apologies from absence. We've got apologies from Councillor Gulsher and Councillor Skilton, and I think Councillor Sajid might be joining us online, I understand, as well. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Any pecuniary interests and non-pecuniary interests?
Sorry, pecuniary.
Pecuniary, Councillor Patel.
10J.
Okay. Okay. And non-pecuniary interests? No, I've got one at 9C, being a resident of the street concerned. That's relevant, but okay. Right, moving on then. Item number 3, Town Mayor's announcements. Just got a few things really to raise. In the past couple of weeks, I attended the Biggleswade Rotary Club dinner discussion a few weeks ago at Stratton House Hotel, and it was, it's quite useful, sort of giving them an overview of what the Town Council does, the role of the mayor and the different committee chairmen, that kind of thing. And they're obviously trying to build up and boost their numbers, so it was nice to be able to engage with them and support them in that. We also have a couple of events coming up. We've got the Mayor's Civic Service on the 22nd of March, Sunday 22nd of March, and I hope that a number of you as possible can make that event. I think it's looking to be quite a good one this year. And then also we have, following on from that, we've also got the Town Council organising an Easter event in Franklin's on the 4th of April as well, for those that have particularly got children or grandchildren that might want to come along. That'll be promoted more heavily shortly, but just wanted to get those in your diary. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, especially as we've got Inspector Graham with us here this evening as well, was I hope as a council we can send our best wishes to PCSO Jeeves, who I believe has retired recently, who is the Biggleswade, one of the Biggleswade PCSOs, and about 19 years worth of service within the police service. So I know she was a very known face around town, and was I'm sure will be sorely missed by many in the community. So I just wanted to put that on the record that we send our best wishes and all the best for retirement, and hopefully Inspector Graham can sort of pass that on as well via police channels as well. Good. Okay. Item number 4, public open session. Anyone online? No. Okay. Thank you very much. And I've already slightly introduced her already, but we're coming now to our invited speaker, and we've got Inspector Graham from Bedfordshire Police Safer Neighbourhood Team. Over to you, Inspector Graham.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. As has already been said, my name is Janine Graham. I'm the Community Police Inspector responsible for North Central Bedfordshire, and obviously one of the towns that I cover is Biggleswade. It's disappointing. I really wanted to show you a community dashboard that we now look at in Bedfordshire Police, and it gives us all of our statistics and we can break them down via towns. So I mean, you can't see it. It's a shame because the tech doesn't work and I can't put it on, but there's a community dashboard and it will give me all of the crimes. I can put in dates, periods of time. So I kind of just wanted to talk through it. It's probably not as impactful as if I could show it you, but I still think it's worth going through. I mean, I've put in a filter for 3 months. Are you happy for 3 months, or do you want to look a bit further afield?
Start with 3 months is fine,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. We'll have lots of questions before we
Yeah, so I kind of just talk through what it's showing me. I literally is just showing Biggleswade, so it's really bespoke. It's only Biggleswade, and that's all we're talking about. And so for all crime in the last 3 months, when I put it in our community dashboards, it said we've recorded 239 crimes and 56 non-crime incidents, which in 3 months, I don't think it's too bad. If I want to break those crimes down, again, you can't see it, but if anyone wants to come and have a little look at it after, you can come and have a look, or I'll try and find it if I can share it with you. Maybe screenshot some of the slides and send them to you. That'd be great, actually, a screenshot. My IT is not good enough to know how to do that, but I'm sure we can. But if I break those down by crime type, for instance, out of those 239 crimes you've had recorded, it'd be probably no surprise that the biggest hitter there is shoplifting. 41 of those has been shoplifting. That's closely followed by criminal damage, which is 33. Then violence with injury, which is 25. Stalking and harassment, which is 19. Then we move into other theft, which is 13, 12 public order offences, 10 drug offences, and then we're talking really low numbers, single figures, when we're talking about miscellaneous crimes against the person, theft of vehicle. You've had 6 burglaries, 4 theft from motor vehicles, and it's so low that the rest are really, they're 1s and 2s. So that's kind of the crimes that you're looking at in Biggleswade for the last 3 months. It also gives me a page, it's just loading up, where I can get any trends. So if we can recognise a trend in a certain street, for instance, or of a certain crime type, it will recognise me some, and it gives me some counts by graphs, and I get a nice little map. Biggleswade at the minute is not giving me any crime trends for any particular crime types or any particular streets or anything like that. However, the crime trend of overall crime is decreasing. So if I look sort of month on month, it's going down at the moment, which is good, since your peak was in October and November and it's gone down. So that's a positive in my view. And let me just have a look at a couple of the other things that would be interesting. So there's some repeat locations on here. Again, it'll give me repeat streets, repeat location. So your repeated streets, there's no surprise to learn with that is Market Square in Biggleswade. Then there'll be London Road. So and we're talking, again, relatively known numbers. 22 of those offences were in Market Square, 18 in London Road, 12 in Drove Road, 12 in Kingsfield Road, 11 in Church Street, 11 in Winston Crescent, and then the rest are all just single numbers, which again probably comes as no surprise to you. And the main repeat locations, which fit in with your shoplifting figures, Asda is your biggest hitter, which, to be fair, they've only reported 10 crimes in 3 months. So I don't know if that's that they're not reporting or the crimes aren't happening, but that's what we've got reported. That's closely followed by the Co-op at 9. Then you've got like Poundland at 5, Iceland 4, and then there's a couple of odd addresses. Aldi, you've only got 3, but they're the kind of things that you would expect, really. I've also got links to nominals that I can't discuss with you. But from what I can see in Biggleswade, there's an overall good, I think they're reasonably good figures, but I'm quite open to any questions that you've got, or if you want me to look a bit further afield, that type of thing.
Thank you, Inspector Graham. I mean, I guess the real challenge is whether people are reporting crimes that are happening, which of course you wouldn't necessarily know about, but it's just that's what worries me, is whether people aren't reporting, how accurate the picture is. But I guess if you go on the information we've got, and certainly the locations that you mentioned are a lot of those around the sort of main retail areas, London Road, Kingsfield Road, which is where obviously the co-op is and so on. So that's quite an interesting kind of trend that you were picking up there. Members, questions? I'll go for Councillor Thomas first, then Councillor Patel.
Hey, I've got one from Pub Watch. The Pub Watch we sometimes attend, but not often enough, I think they feel. And the Pub Watch seems to be sort of falling apart a little bit. And they've got a bit of frustration because unless they get the reports and they get the feedback, they can't bar people. So that's the main thing that they're worried about.
Do you know who gets invited to Pub Watch? Because I know I certainly don't.
I don't know, but it's all the pub owners and.
Okay, I think Councillor Knight wants to
come
in that point.
So PCSO Jeeves was attending whenever she could. It takes place roughly every 6 weeks. The next one is on the 15th of April, and it's all the pubs in Sandy, Langford, Stotfold, Biggleswade, meeting in Biggleswade. But if the police can attend, it's really helpful. Because obviously there's a bit of trouble with the nighttime economy, and I think the pubs are working together to try and make Biggleswade and the surrounding area safer for both people using the facilities, but also the staff. And it's frustrating if the police don't attend.
No, I completely agree. I personally haven't had an invite, but what I can tell you is you've recently had a newly appointed sergeant that now covers Biggleswade. Her name is Steph Webb. So if somebody can send me the invite, I will make sure that either myself or Steph attends in the first instance, and then moving forward, we'll see who's the most suitable person. I personally would like it if Steph would be the regular attendee. It's great that Anne goes, but obviously Steph has kind of got more overall knowledge of the whole area, and obviously she's got more direction to do things. So yeah, I completely agree. And either myself and Steph, if not both of us, will come to the first one, and then one of us will be in attendance.
I can put you in touch
because it's really helpful for us as well. Because we obviously attend all the central beds meetings, and we discuss licensing issues, so it's helpful for us as well. So no, thank you.
That's good. Okay, thank you. I think we had Councillor Patel and then Councillor Agnew.
Hi, thanks for the stats there. In relation to this 41 shoplifting, is there, if any, what specific steps are being taken regarding this shoplifting? I mean, is there any, do you work with any supermarkets or businesses to reduce this, or to identify regular suspects, or is it organised crime groups, or?
Yeah, we do. We work really closely with all of the supermarkets. All of the PCs and the PCSOs have got close relationships with, particularly the ones that have got security in there. They're always going in there. If they report a crime, we will always investigate it. We will look at getting all the CCTV, identify anybody we can. If we're really good at, if we get somebody that we can see is having a little crime spate, which we do quite often, and that they end up being responsible for several, we will take ownership of them and go out and get them. And I can give you several examples over the last 6 months, a year, where we've had people in and charged them with 20 odd offences. The difficulty that we have is that we remand them, put them in front of the court, and the courts release them. And that is going to get worse with the new Justice Bill, because nobody's going to prison for less than 2 years in the new bill. So it's a challenge for us. We always investigate it. We will always charge them. It becomes challenging when the courts release them. But we work really hard with the supermarkets, and especially the smaller stores. If we can give them support and advice on how to target hardening, where they should be putting their CCTV, if they should get a security guard, kind of the placement of their items. Like, if you're a little small shop, don't put all your expensive items right near the door, because that's just as encourages theft. So, and if anyone wants any support or advice on how to prevent shoplifting, we're more than happy to come around, do an assessment. So we do work really hard with the shops. Our biggest challenge, though, as we've kind of already pointed out, is a lot of people don't report it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Agnew.
Inspector, thank you very much for coming and reporting. You were mentioning that the crime statistics at the moment are not alarming, seemingly not alarming, not too big. Is it a trend because of the seasonality, like there are more crimes in winter, or in your own observation and experience? And also, which towns then in the wider Bedfordshire area seem to be comparing unfavorably to us?
I mean,
just for education.
Yeah, I mean, I think central beds in general, because we're such a vast area, if you break down every single town, individually, each town actually is not a high crime area. And I think that we've got a lot of things in place across central Bedfordshire to prevent that crime. And as community policing teams, we work really hard to keep these small towns crime-free areas and as nice a place to live as we can. So I don't think we have as many problems. And when we do identify a problem, I think we're on it really quick. I mean, and a lot of you will know before Christmas, we had a lot of problems with antisocial behaviour in the town centre. And it was a particular group of young people. And we worked really hard, not just the police, but with all of the partners. CBC were integral to working with it. You know, a lot of people may be in this room, our youth offending the schools, and we were able to, the main instigator of all of those problems that got so bad actually that I think the bus companies were threatening to pull out of giving you bus services at one point. Grant Palmer were, but we managed to charge one of the young boys with 9 offences and he was moved out of the area. And as you know, for young people, that is the last resort for us, because we don't like criminalising young people, but this young person had got to such a point that we had no choice. He's moved out of the area, he has been convicted, he's now got conditions, he can't come back to the area for the foreseeable future anyway, so he was dealt with. But the other 8 young people, we visited every single one of their parents, we gave them antisocial behaviour contracts, and actually they've gone very quiet, or dare I say that word, since, and we dealt with the problem. I'm not saying you don't ever get any antisocial behaviour in Biggleswade town centre, because, you know, that would be amiss of me to say, but that particular group of individuals, we really quickly dealt with them. So I think that is why in Biggleswade and actually the other small towns across the whole of central Bedfordshire, we work really closely to do it. It's more difficult, I would say, in the bigger towns. And as you would expect, if I was to give you those figures in Luton town centre or Bedford town centre, we would be having a very different conversation. And the policing tactics and our challenges are different. But I think that in general, unless anyone wants to disagree, I think we deal with them all right in our little towns.
Helping yourselves anyhow, like town councillors can spread the word or messaging of some kind?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us is if you can, and I think we've talked about it before, is everyone gets signed up to Beds Connected, because Beds Connected, we can really get quick messaging out to you about anything. So if there is, I don't know, suddenly a lot of elderly people have been fraudulently conned out of their money for roofs by a particular group of people, or there's suddenly a spate of burglaries on a particular road, or there's loads of antisocial behaviour on this road and we're looking for CCTV or we're looking for reports, we can get messaging out really quickly with secure links to get it back to us. It's a really good way of messaging, and actually you can message us as well, so it's a really good way of delivering our message two-way. So, but it's only as good as the people that sign up to it. So probably my encouragement is let's get more people signed up to Beds Connected, and I'm quite happy to send you links on how to get it signed up to, because people can communicate with us then. But I mean, we have a really good relationship with Biggleswade Town Council, I think, and with CBC and lots of the other statutory agencies in the area. So
yeah, I think if you pass on the details to Asia, Krim can follow that up with the rest of us. So, sorry, Councillor Jones, I think you had your hand up as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, like everybody else, for coming and the information. And it's great to hear of all the positive work that's happening. With the world as it is and the way things are going, are there any changes coming up that you're aware of in terms of support or policing levels that we should be aware of as regards to Biggleswade? Just thinking for the next 6 months to a year ahead, so that we can continue on the positive trajectory.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the team in Biggleswade, I know we just mentioned Yuli's and Anne, but you've just got 2 new PCs come over here. And obviously you've still got your base at Biggleswade. I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, it's certainly going to be here for the rest of 2026 because nothing happens that quickly. So you've still got a base here. You've got response police officers based over here, as well as you've got a whole community base at Flitwick that cover both areas as well. To my knowledge, there's no reduction of officers in relation to community policing. They're investing in community policing and want more people out. I know that Bedfordshire at the moment are working really hard to base people in central Bedfordshire to make sure that we as residents in central Bedfordshire get the same service as those in Luton and in Bedford. I think relation to policing numbers, I don't think you're going to see any change in Bedfordshire. I think the biggest challenge is going to be the justice bill, as I said to you, and you know, all the details haven't come out yet, but there's, and I think it was on the TV this morning actually talking about courts and not having juries by trial, which will be for certain offences, but you're looking at low level offences, because at the moment, if you went to court for theft, for instance, if it's over a certain amount of money, you can elect to have a trial by jury. They will take that option away, which, well, to me actually kind of makes sense because it's a low level theft. We're not talking about serious crimes. They will always still have a jury trial, and they'll be looking at, they don't have enough prison spaces. They'll be looking at sending less people to prison, which means we'll have more offenders managed in the community. So that's our biggest police challenge coming up, in my opinion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Inspector. Very interesting to hear the statistics. In the past, the police have at various times been able to provide the town council with the kind of statistics that you were quoting to us. As it is, I think that to get those statistics now, the member of staff is having to work very hard to actually get them. Is there any possibility of you sharing them with the council over a period of time? Because again, 3 months is an interesting statistic, but I think it's year-on-year trends, because there may be certain times of the year where certain crimes are more prevalent than others. So is there any way there? And what did really intrigue me, and I may be missing the point somewhere, 56 non-crimes. Now, what are non-crimes and why are the police dealing with them if they're non-crimes?
You'll be surprised what we get called to. It'll be incidents where they feel that there's not a crime recorded. I mean, we get called to anything. Without going through them, I can't tell you what they are. But yeah, there's a lot of things we get called
to. So there's the kind of incident that aren't necessarily warranting police enforcement action.
It might be as simple as a damage-only road traffic collision, for instance, which on the A1, of course, we get lots of. So it could be something like that. It could be a report of some suspicious behaviour. It could be some antisocial behaviour. We had a recent trend in Amptill, actually, with some of the kids doing this TikTok trend where you knock on the door and run away, and they think it's funny. And I know we all played it probably years ago when we were kids, but you know that they were targeting some people that, you know, really were quite elderly or poorly. So we've got the schools involved to, you know, try and combat that and educate them. So it could be something like that. Without actually breaking them down, I don't know, but that's the kind of thing we're looking at. But in relation to sharing the crime trends in this dashboard, I have no concerns of sharing it. I don't know, and again, outside the meeting, I'll have a look at what the previous arrangements were sharing it, and I know that we've given access to CBC, so I'll work out the best way, but I'm more,
Thank you.
there's nothing that we can't share there. We just probably need a process of how we do it and
Yeah.
how often we do it, but we can organise that outside this meeting.
I think it's changed over the years according to availability of
Maybe.
their and systems. The other thing, if I may briefly raise it, e-scooters and e-bikes, they whiz around all over the place without seemingly without lights and anything else, no rules of the road.
No.
And it could be a source for other types of crime
So,
as well.
Yeah, so that is on our radar, particularly from every single town council, and we do a lot of work on them. So they're illegal. Basically, they're illegal. We in Bedfordshire and every other police force have spent a lot of time trying to educate young people, parents, that they're illegal, all the reasons why, the dangers. And we are at a point where we've done all the education. And, you know, I've even seen, I went out on Christmas Day and walked my dog, and there was young girls out that have obviously just had it as a Christmas present from their parents. So I don't know if they're not listening or the message isn't getting out, but we've got to a point now where we put on proactive operations to target these e-scooters. And when we get one, we seize them, they get destroyed, and that's the end of it. That's what we do now. So they don't get them back.
The other question is, why is the shops allowed to sell them? But that's another matter, not your.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of work being done much higher up than me about the legislation on selling them, because you're right, if you can't sell them, people can't buy them, they wouldn't be a problem. And it is confusing because there's a lot of these towns that have, like the line by for Milton Keynes, for instance, probably our closest, they've got a scheme, but what they don't do is say that you do have to be 18 to drive it. You do have to have at least a provisional driving license, because if you're not 18 and you don't have a provisional driving license, if anything happens to you or somebody else, there's no insurance cover whatsoever. So, but that is a whole nother issue. But yes, we're very aware of it. We do actively do things. We have done one in Biggleswade recently. I think our most recent one was Shefford. But we have to target kind of one town at the time, but we do continue to try and educate. But if anyone wants to report them, we quite happily, if we know there's a young person, for instance, using one, we'll go and knock on their door, tell their parents. If they're seen out of it, we'll seize it. And I know we've had some incidents in some of our other towns where we've seen members of staff from shops coming to work on them. And we'll go in and visit them and say, look, I appreciate your mode of transport, but they are illegal. And if we catch you out on them, we'll seize them. And people don't want them seized because they cost a lot of money.
Okay,
Very much.
Last question from Councillor Patel, I think. I know we need to move on.
Thank you. So the sentencing changes coming up, potentially there could be more crime, people knowing that, less chance of going to prison, etc. So is there any plans in progress at the moment regarding that, i.e. any recruitment for more officers, or what plans are in place? I know it's hard to judge at the moment, but
I'm not aware of any. I think they're looking at a lot of different ways of managing things. So obviously we have like offender managers at the minute. So I would predict, and again, it's just the world according to Janine, but there'll be more offender management type things. But obviously Bedfordshire Police are only governed by what budget they're given, and they haven't given any more budget to increase police officers at the minute that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much. Great, thank you very much. Thanks for your time this evening, Janine. That's been very informative, and hopefully we can get some of those screenshots or whatever in due course of the different data and bits and bobs, and we can share that with colleagues and have a look. But very welcome to come and visit us again and share any more information as you get it. And
I mean, and if anyone's, you can get my details, you've all got them. If you've got any queries or questions or concerns, I'm always happy for you to send me an email, and either I'll deal with it directly or send it to one of my team to answer you. But I'm more than happy for you to email me or give me a call and we can discuss anything.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
Feel free, if you wish to stay, you're very welcome, but otherwise feel free to go.
Thank you.
No problem. It's all right. No problem. Thank you. Okay, back to the agenda then. Item number 6, members' questions. Councillor Russell.
Can I go back to this vexed issue of the crossing in St Andrews Street? We've let it lie for several months. Can I ask that officers go back to Central Beds yet again and push for proper answers on this? Because we haven't yet had a proper written answer to it with reasons why, because they're saying it can't be done, but we don't know the reasons. And if we could push it a bit harder, I think, please.
Okay, Mr. Hussaini, okay, we'll follow that one up. Yep, thank you. Great, thank you. All right, item number 7 then, minutes and recommendations of the last meeting, which is the 10th of February. So we'll just do the minutes and then we'll come to matters arising afterwards. It starts on page 10. So page 10, page 11, Councillor Barrett.
I don't normally like saying this, but I think February is spelled wrong at the top.
Yes, well spotted. Okay. Nope, quite right. Yeah, on page 10. Yep. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Page 11. Nope. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. And page 17. Okay, we're happy with that. Okay, let's move it. Yep. Okay. Where are we again? Okay, so item number 8, back to the minutes again for matters arising. So page 10, page 11. Councillor Foster.
Just to follow up really, so we're on 4A right at the bottom. Mr. Inskip invited to provide a written summary. Did we actually receive a summary from Mr. Inskip? Are you aware?
I don't know if Mr. Hussaini wants to comment. I haven't seen one, but
No, not yet.
yeah, no problem. Page 12. I mean, just on item number 5A, Anglia Water have been in touch with myself and the clerk about different sort of interactions in the community. So there has been some follow up there, but it's sort of ongoing. So they did say what they were going to do towards the end of that minute, which was great. Councillor Jones.
So, and just to follow up on that, I connected them with some of the local schools and action has definitely been taken there because we've had communication about reroutes of buses. So
good.
Been really good at following up on what they said they would. So I'm really happy about that.
No, I agree. I share that because I gave them some information on some of the bits of the community and I think they've reached out as well. So that's really good. Page 13. Nope. Page 14. Page 15. Although I'm conscious the item 10F is sort of coming back shortly on today's agenda as well, bits of 10F. Item 16. Page 16, sorry, and page 17. No, okay. Great, we're happy with that. Good, move it. Yep, great, thank you. Right, substantive items then. 9A, meetings calendar 26-27. Mr. Saini, just very briefly.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, reports here with the current and proposed meeting schedules going out something like 15 months. It's all been looked at. The only thing that's still outstanding is the precise dates for the joint committee, but the weeks and months for those are correct as well. So the recommendation is essentially for members to consider this and resolve to enable officers to put the proposed new schedule up in our notice boards in due course once we get confirmation from CBC.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Just before we go forward with it, if we can just check the dates, the 5th of November on page 23 is a Thursday. Does that feel right for one of the meetings? I've gone through.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one, but please don't put all the pressure on me because I'm not. But Yeah, it's the 5th of November is a Thursday.
26th of August is a Wednesday.
Oh, there we go, 26th of August is a
26th of
Wednesday.
August is a Wednesday.
That's the 25th though, it's this one.
Mine says 6.
This is the 25 ones were on there, and that's why I got confused in the beginning, and then if you follow it through.
Yeah. Is that the one on page 23, Councillor Jones, is it?
Yeah, on
Is
page
that-
23, the 5th of November is a Thursday,
Right,
but I think you just got the, yeah, don't worry about the other one, we just both did exactly the same
Okay.
mistake.
With the fifth of November, the 10th of November can't both be Tuesdays.
no, that's quite right. Okay. Right, so we need to resolve that one then. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any other comments, questions on that? Okay, so apart from the sort of 5th, 10th of November, we need to iron that one out, but we'll work out whatever the date is, but I guess it must be the 3rd of November without checking the calendar. I guess it must be the 3rd, and then the 10th would make sense, wouldn't it? So, okay. Yep, no, okay, good. Right, so there is a proposal. So that members consider and resolve to enable officers to action the proposed meetings 26, 27, town council notice boards and sort of promotion, but as Karim is saying, to once BJC meetings are confirmed. So Councillor Albo.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation
Yep.
subject to the change that's just been.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we got a seconder for that. Yeah, Councillor Foster, thank you. Okay, all right. All those in favour as the motion set out. Good. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Great. Okay, 9B, parking and road safety. This is a motion brought by myself. It's fairly self-explanatory, but for those that maybe haven't been following it as closely, there has been this has been an issue that's been brought to this council before by residents around, particularly around Kitelands and other areas, but also been some coverage in the Biggleswade Chronicle recently about this as well, and it's obviously an ongoing issue. My main concern is that there'll be an incident may happen, and I think we, as a town council, at least need to put our thoughts down on this, and this is one way of doing this with my motion. But obviously, I'm happy to take comments and suggestions before we vote. So, Councillor Barrett.
Just a quick question. Is it isolated, these sorts of issues, to Justice School?
I have written it in dealing with specific Biggleswade Academy, because I think if we expand it out to all the schools, it then becomes a bit more diluted. But yeah, it was specifically around BA. Yeah. Go on, Councillor Foster. Yeah.
I support this. I think it's the right thing for us to be doing. I think to encourage the ward councillors to actually get highways officers looking at particularly the section around Kitelands Road around that corner is important, some sort of physical deterrent. I think that the point you're also making about the parking inspections and enforcement at the sort of key times, and not just as a one-off, just have that as part of a routine thing, so that they're checking at sort of between 8:30 and 8:45, and the same thing 3:00 in the afternoon, so that there is a deterrent, and it's hit a few times, so that it's not it's a proper deterrent. So where there is the physical things will help, obviously, but I think there's also the potential for to be enforced is the main thing. So I support it, and I think that's probably about it. It's quite clearly a problem for residents living by the school, but it's safety is the main issue here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Alban. Councillor Jones, you want to speak, and then Councillor Strawn.
I agree entirely, and I think it would be nice to show support. I know that the school itself and the students especially have been outside to try and gather support and raise awareness around parents, and it is a bit disappointing, if I'm honest, to see that it hasn't been received in the way that it was intended, and disappointing that we have to put our children in that position in the first place, although I'm sure there's lessons in there for them as they grow up. But yeah, I think whatever we can do to back up what you've both said is going to be appreciated.
Yeah, no, thank you. Councillor Strong.
Fully supporting the proposal, and particularly I think it's useful to get the ward councillors on board and bring them into it. But is it also the intention that we be writing to the appropriate office at Central Beds Council with this proposal, so that they actually see it? Because at the moment, it doesn't look as though that's included. It's really just raising the issue, which is quite rightly going to be raised. But in addition to raising it with the ward councillors, it does seem to be appropriate that we actually raise it with the main officers at Central Beds, because they will actually have the practical side of implementing it. And perhaps in light of Councillor Jones' comments, we could also perhaps just write to the school to let me know what we've actually done, assuming that we pass the proposal.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor Strong. In terms of the officers, I don't see why we couldn't, assuming colleagues agree, we can, CC that or pass that on. I think the main intention with my motion was that we've had a lot of talk from ward councillors about the issue, and I've heard very little about solutions, and this is a way of sort of bottom-up commitment from us as a town council to say, look, ward councillors, you've identified the problem. Can we work together with the solution? And actually outlining some practical points. They can raise this with highways officers and so on and so forth. And it was a way of trying to encourage them at least to try and do that, rather than just highlight a problem and then not take any ownership of it. So
just a point of clarification, I think it's quite right that you push the ward councillors to do their business, but equally, I think it should be going to officers.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I think we could include that within the motion if colleagues agree. Okay, so great. Okay, well, I think we can go to a vote then. Obviously, as the motion is outlined with taking into account the commentary as well. All those in favour of what's outlined, I guess. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much. Unanimous. That's great. Thank you. Okay, item 9C, CBC road scheme, one-way TRO on the bulk. I must say, I'm just speaking from the chair, I had already thought this was permanently in place already. So I was having lived on the street for a number of years, I'd actually thought this was already permanently in place. So I've learned something today as well, but comments, questions, I guess. Councillor Strawn.
I think all we can do is note it and note the fact that it's retrospective, because I hadn't got it right in the first place. So I think do we just note it and move on?
I think, Councillor Arbone?
I think we should support it because if we don't, perhaps they'll change their mind. And we don't want it changed, do we?
No, I think there is a risk of that.
So I propose we write supporting this proposal.
Okay, second as that.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Got a second as that. Okay, yeah. Councillor Barrett.
It would be nice to know if there are any more that might just be floating around that they haven't covered. So, I mean, it's a serious point. We could ask the question, are there any others in Biggleswade they've forgotten to do as well?
Yeah, well, there's certain bits off the book they'd forgotten about as well, but we won't go into that now. But I don't know, Mr. Saini, could you sort of take that as a note to try and contact the highways and just be nice to have a bit more proactive awareness from them rather than just coming, 2-3 years late or whatever, probably longer than that actually. If that's okay. But yeah, it's a fair point, Councillor Barrett. Okay, so we've got a proposer and a seconder for supporting this and I guess writing contact to Central Beds in that way. All those in favour of the supporting the measure in place? Great. Yeah, that's unanimous, I think. Thank you. Thank you very much. 9D. Well, we could spend all night talking about this, I suppose, but a proposed new settlement in Tempsford. Thoughts, comments, questions? Councillor Russell and Councillor Foster.
I think the problem with this is that it's the MP and it's the leader of Central Bedfordshire Council and the chairman of Tempsford Council. However, Biggleswade and Sandy are going to be heavily impacted. And I would hope that the MP and the leader of Central Bedfordshire Council would meet with both Biggleswade Town Council and Sandy Town Council. It may be, it is, that there are very vague proposals at the moment, although it does say that there may be a government consultation in the next few weeks with a bit more flesh on the bone. But I really do think that this is important enough for them to come and talk to us as town councils. And I'm not necessarily talking about in this forum, but in a forum where we can talk freely and openly about what they think might be proposed at the moment and what our concerns are. And I think it's important that we get our concerns over. Certainly Sandy and Beeston are heavily impacted because the A1 goes straight through them and there's going to be a lot more traffic. And we've already seen the impact of the closure of the Tingy's Corner crossing with the number of vehicles on Hill Lane at certain times. And by the way, I was thinking about the Hitchin Street and the Anglian Water, and the diversion is Broome and Gypsy Lane, which means coming down Hill Lane again to get into Biggleswade. So that's going to add to the problems. But we've got more and more housing being built in Caldicot, more and more pressure on Hill Lane, which makes it hard for people to get into Biggleswade from the west. And I think that we need to raise some of these issues with our MP and with the leader of Central Bedfordshire now, not just leaving it and seeing whether it happens to get discussed at a later stage. So I would propose that we write and say to Richard Fuller and Adam Zerny, when are you going to come and discuss it with us? And you should also be discussing it with Sandy Town Council.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Foster.
I think I would like to say that it's welcome the letter from Richard, the fact that he's actually taken the time to write to us to acknowledge the fact that we're one of the parishes that would be directly affected by this, and also the fact that there is the intention to convene the meeting with all parish councils and ward councillors. So appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Russell. It's just responding positively to them, saying thank you for that, but we'd like to meet with you as soon as possible to discuss exactly the concerns that Councillor Russell's alluded to because of the impact on the area, particularly around transport and the A1. I don't think we're likely to get a major change to the A1, but it's have a full understanding of what the plans might look like. So,
okay, thank you, Councillor Strong.
I would happily second Councillor Russell's proposal. I think it's absolutely essential because, in effect, this letter says absolutely nothing in terms of what's happening. It just says there's something happening, but we don't know what. And I'm not saying how they're going to really cover it in the future, but we need to be involved sooner rather than later because although there'll be consultation possibly, we need to be in at the forefront because although we're possibly on the outskirts of the impact, the highway issues are of major concern, and indeed it'll affect the Great Northern Railway line as well in terms of what's coming through. So I think it's essential that we actually meet sooner rather than later so that we can put forward our views and concerns and some of the issues that they can consider, because otherwise if it goes to consultation, by the time they've consulted, the consultation period will be over and nobody will know what our concerns are.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Russell.
I think that Councillor Strawn is right to have brought up the railway because of course we've got East West Rail as well. We've also got possible extra traffic because of the, now I've lost the name of it, the theme park that's going to be
Universal.
Thank you. Age showing, I think. And it's not just transport infrastructure. I mean, I understand with East West Rail that they're likely to put East West Rail on a bridge over the East Coast Main Line. But then there's the question of the possible park and ride station at Tempsford and the impact that will have. And I know from talking to the Sandy Mayor that she is very concerned about Sandy Station, and Sandy actually raised that issue, whether Sandy Station might end up being closed. And I know that we came back from London on Sunday and the train didn't stop at Arlesey or Sandy. It was Hitchin, Biggleswade, St Neots. And apparently that station skipping is happening an awful lot now. So are we going to lose Sandy Station? And what's the impact of that going to be on the A1 if people are trying to get to a new Tempsford station? And one of the biggest impacts is, what about health? We know that that's the prime thing that people in Biggleswade are worried about. We've had the ICB here, and all they were really telling us is, well, we're taking this service out of Biggleswade to Shefford, we're taking that service to Sandy. We're not going to get our health hub. So what about the whole health provision in East Bedfordshire? There are some really, really difficult issues. And I suspect that our MP is well aware of them, but I think we need to be reassured, and we need to hear what he's got to say about it. And we need to find out what the MP and the leader of CBC are going to be doing about this, and actually to understand what's going to happen, because there's likely to be a development corporation put in place. So the whole thing will be taken out of the hands of Central Bedfordshire. How can we influence what's going on? And yes, it's going to be years and years before they build anything like 40,000 houses. But if we don't get things under discussion now, it may well be too late.
Okay, thank you. I think we had a proposal and a seconder there in terms of following up and having a stronger kind of response in terms of setting up a meeting. So all those in favour of that approach, and we'll, if thank you, that's unanimous. If Krim follows up with the, I guess, the authors of that email, and maybe less so the chair of Tempsford perhaps, and really just focus on the MP and leader of Central Beds, and we can get a meeting and to express quite deeply the concerns that have obviously been raised tonight. So item 10, planning applications, 10A, Warburtons. I don't think there are any, but
well, you know, our usual response.
Indeed, yes, no, indeed, Mark. Thank you. Right, good. 10B, amenity land south of 6 London Road. Yeah, no objections. Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. 10C, car park, the retail park on London Road, EV charging and associated infrastructure. Oh, hang on. Councillor Russell and Councillor Barrett.
I'm a bit concerned about this because it's a very busy car park. We've already got spaces taken out by whatever the car business is there. And is this really necessary in such a busy car park? Because it's sometimes quite difficult to find anywhere to park. And I wouldn't want to see the businesses on the retail park being impacted. I know we were concerned when the retail park was first being mooted, but we seem to have got some sort of a balance between the retail park and the town centre. And I wouldn't want to see that upset. So I think we should at least make the point that we are concerned about the loss of ordinary car parking spaces. Okay. Because so many, very often you go into a supermarket or whatever with half a dozen or 8 EV charging points and maybe 1 or 2 in use. And then obviously each EV charging point takes up a space and a half of a normal car park space. So it does worry me that in this particular case, with that car park being so busy, that it'll just make things worse.
Okay, Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Patel.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to the idea of having the electric charging points, but I agree with Councillor Russell with most of the points there, but I actually think they're in the wrong place. So if you're going to put them somewhere, they've put them, I think, just outside TK Maxx there, along that road there, which is prime parking, if you like, for shoppers. I also suspect that these charges are really aimed at people going up and down the A1 that need to stop off and get a charge rather than for residents of Biggleswade per se. So if we are going to have these, I'd probably suggest they go right over the back towards where We Buy Any Car is, and they put them over that back fence there where often there's a lot of spaces. So if we are going to make any suggestions, or perhaps we can be a little bit more positive and say not against it, but they're perhaps in the wrong place.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patel and then Councillor Jones.
Just agreeing with Councillor Russell's point, but just to add, there is announcement of a 24-hour gym as well. So that's going to take a lot more parking spaces up as well. Yeah. So I think that does need to be considered quite greatly.
Yeah. Councillor Jones.
I recall we had a conversation similar about this a while back. I cannot remember the life of me the name of the website now, and I probably should have done it in advance. But I remember at the time, Councillor Knight and myself having a conversation about supply and demand. Don't know if you remember that. And the amount of electric charging spots availability that we already have in town versus the amount of electric versus how much they're actually being utilised, and therefore we already have more spaces. Obviously, that data needs correct checking that is accurate for today, because I think it was a good 6 months or so ago we had that conversation, but we already had surplus charging points in the town. So to Councillor Russell's point, or Councillor Barrett's point about aiming for people coming up the A1 rather than for residents itself, I would argue it's not for residents if we already have surplus spots in town. So again, loss of car parking spaces for a retail park that is thoroughly oversubscribed, not even in Christmas periods, just on a normal weekend, which is great for us as a town. Why would we want to diminish that and take that away? But also, if we already have surplus spaces, why are we putting more in? And aren't there some in McDonald's across the way, just across the road?
And in Lidl.
Anyway,
and in Lidl.
and in Screwfix. So if you think
And
about
Lidl.
the density as well, at least if we were going to have more in the town, they would be more spaced out to make it more appropriate for people to access them. So I just think that that's something to consider as well.
Understood. Okay. Councillor Albone and then Councillor Knight.
Yeah, some of the officers' reports on here actually oppose this application because of the effect on the ecology and the trees in that area. Because apparently there's an area tree preservation order, and the application is to take one of the trees out. And there's also concern about the cabling interfering with the vegetation as well. So it seems that they are in the wrong place.
Yes.
And we have had a previous application in exactly this area, and that seems to have failed. So
Right. Okay.
I don't think there's anything sort of significantly changed in the application.
Okay. It does seem rather ironic having an environmental option removing trees, but anyway, I'll leave that thought. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I think Councillor Russell and Councillor Albone have sort of nailed the grounds for objection. I guess whilst I agree with Councillor Jones, I guess we have to consider material planning issues, and building a load of charging stations that no one uses seems like a bad investment, but I'm not sure it's a material planning consideration.
Okay. All right. Councillor Russell.
Can I just add that if we're worried about people on the A1, there's always surplus spaces at Sainsbury's for their EV charging.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's good. Councillor Strong.
I'm just noting that this is a planning application and the observations have been made. There appear to be some grounds for objecting on planning matters. Perhaps Councillor Albone and Councillor Russell, between them with their combined knowledge of the issues, and particularly Councillor Albone's having reviewed the officer's report, could actually suggest that if it is an objection, that it's objecting on the grounds that it is in accordance with officers' reports about the ecology, affecting of trees, etc. But we must, if we're going to object, can we actually now work out what the objections are?
Absolutely. Yes. No, that's fine, Councillor Strawn. Councillor Albone, do you want to have a stab at that?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, we could object based on the reports of the ecology and the tree and landscape officer, and the impact on the vegetation in the area, and in addition, I think it's loss of car parking spaces.
I think it's loss of car parking spaces in a car park that's already congested.
Yeah. Okay.
And the impact that would have on the businesses.
Yes. Okay. All right. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. Okay, great. All those in favour of the motion sort of set out then, or the objection rather set out. It's unanimous, I think. Okay. All right. There we go. Thank you very much. 10D. That's an interesting one. 20 to 22 High Street, Biggleswade. It's a former Halifax building. UP Feedsy windows. Comments, questions? Councillor North.
Well, is it not the case that UBVC windows are not allowed under the rules of the conservation area? Is that correct?
No. Okay, I had thought they weren't allowed, but others colleagues are.
I seem to remember there was some issue with the building that used to contain the Cancer Relief charity shop that they tried to do it, and it was stopped by Central Beds enforcement people that refused to allow them to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay, Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Abbott.
Just a bit of clarity.
Sure.
Go back to reading the documents.
Sure.
One of the officers has actually said that it's okay. Yes, they would normally have an issue with that, but in this particular case, they said it's okay. It's one of the letters in there.
Okay.
So, sorry,
That's
why have
interesting.
they said it's okay?
I can't remember exactly why, but I read it through and it said it was okay to use them in this case.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Maybe
Okay.
my clarity needs clarifying.
No, that's fine, Councillor Barrett. It just I had been led to believe, because a former member of this town council was very successful in trying to get some of these things rectified, which is why I'd understood that. But it's interesting that officers are taking a different approach. That's why I'm not saying anybody's wrong or anything. It was just an interesting observation. Councillor Straw, then back to Councillor Barrett.
Noting the observation of the officers, that doesn't mean that we cannot object on the grounds that it is against the conservation area, assuming that is correct. We've already objected once to it. This seems to be an added objection to the original objection. So perhaps I can move with it, repeat our original objection, and also on the grounds that the UPVC windows are inappropriate in the conservation area.
Okay. All right, we've got a seconder for that. Yeah, Councillor Russell. Okay. All right. Okay. So all those in favour of the objection as set out by Councillor Strong. Okay. Councillor Barrett, is that an objection or an abstention, or you're abstaining? Okay. It's all right.
I think we finished.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's carried then. Thank you. Right. E. 15 Kaiser Court. No objection. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Albone.
Yeah, I agree, no objection, but as
Okay.
long as sufficient parking remains there.
Okay. So yeah, we can add that, I think, no objection, but sufficient parking. Clarify that. F, Stratton Farm, London Road, Biggleswade. New close bordered 3-metre fences. No objection. Okay. Home Grove Farm, London Road. It's a tree preservation order issue. No objection. Okay. To the Avenue, Silex, excuse me. Subject to neighbours. Yep. Okay. To Lincoln Crescent. No objection, or subject to neighbours. Yep. 4 Auckland Road. Councillor Strawn.
Chairman, we dealt with this last month, as is evidenced by the minutes. So why are we being asked to deal with it again?
Okay. Has Asia, are you able to clarify, has there been anything substantively different, or? So otherwise, I'm not sure why it's on the agenda. Was there something different that they'd added, or? No. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah,
So the record, can we just repeat our objection? From
well, I was just about to say that, Councillor Strawn. Yeah, if we hadn't, no, it's fine. I just it was just if Asia had something else to add, but yeah, we can reiterate our objection again because the deadline's tomorrow anyway. So we need to. So no objection. Sorry, the no objection. My apologies. The no objection then in that case. Fine. Okay. K 38 Boddington Gardens. No, subject to neighbours. 14 Brunswick Close. Sorry, there's a lot of planning applications this month. 14 Brunswick Close. Subject to neighbours. Yeah, thank you. 4 Primrose Close. Yeah, subject to neighbours. 15 Wilshire's Road. Subject to neighbours. Okay. And then there's the planning appeal outcome for 3 Sage Close, where we we raised no objection to that one. So just no objection again. Okay, it brings us to item 11, which is the planning application outcomes, which is what it is. No comments, questions on that? Nope. Okay. Item 12, we're on to accounts. Mr. Board, do you want to say anything before we move to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll be very brief. just want to remind members that the payment listing on the website includes the standing orders and the direct debits. And also in autumn 2024, members agreed for the council to transfer within the budget to transfer 25,000 into the rolling capital budget as a fund for future capital projects. I would say the way things are going, the council is on the road in making sure that the 25,000 will be transferred at the end of financial year. So the 25,000 is on top of the 724 surplus that we have at the moment. The recommendation is for members to consider and approve the January 2026 financial management report. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Barrett.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I think it's an excellent report, and I think it's very good to see that these numbers, given that we were a little bit shy of where we wanted to be. So I think officers should be commended for the work they've done in getting us to this point. Hopefully we've got a couple of months to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Still time.
I could speak too early, but yes, I'd like to put that on record, please.
No, that's great. I think all the council will share that thought as well, so we can get that minuted. Councillor Strong.
I think, again, we've had an excellent report. Councillor Barrett's expressed the good job that our finance team are doing. I'm just going to touch wood and hope that the projected outturn is as predicted in 2 months' time, but so far, so good.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Great, so the recommendation I set out, we need a proposer and we have it. Great, thank you. Yep. Great, okay, we'll move on. Item 13 then, we're on to items for information. CBC update recycling services. There's obviously a note here in the papers, but it's be quite a change for Central Bedfordshire Council bringing in curbside glass recycling. But any comments or questions? It is for information, but it's obviously a big change. So, Councillor Strong.
I think it's actually a welcome change. The fact that you can actually get rid of our bottles, etc., without having going down the bottle blank will be a great relief to some, but not to me.
I quite like my walk to the bottle bank, but it will be nice to have curbside recycling. So anyway, right, so that's good. Okay, great. 13B then, temporary the temporary speed restrictions, Langford Road, Biggleswade. Receive information from the street works team. Any comments, questions? Just note it. Sorry, Councillor Albo.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice if it was made permanent, because that there is. I know this is in place for traffic going in and out of the construction site, but on match days, more traffic goes in and out of the Biggleswade Town football ground. So and there's also some dwellings along there. But if it was in place permanently, it would be a nice buffer between like a unrestricted speed and the 30-mile-an-hour limit, which starts at the A1 bridge or thereabouts. So we should note it, but it would be nice to see that permanent. And I don't know if we can include that.
Okay, Councillor Russell.
I'd second that proposal.
Okay.
Because people do drive stupidly there, and you really shouldn't do much more than 40 miles an hour on that last bit into Biggleswade.
Yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, with the bend and one thing and another. So I'd second that we write to Central Beds and say this should be considered to be permanent.
Okay. All right. So we've got a motion on that. It's obviously, we'll note the information as it's set out here, but whether that can be pursued sort of separately, excuse the pun, about whether it can be made permanent. So all those in favour of the motion set out, we can write to them and find out. Okay, yeah, it's unanimous. Sorry, Councillor Jones.
Sorry, I wasn't. I would abstain from that. I didn't vote.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Still gone through, but yeah, I recognise your abstention. That's fine.
Just for records.
No, that's fine. Okay. Right, okay, 13C, IT tender. Obviously, Helen's not here, so I guess Karim's going to do that report. So
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So the report essentially sets out the timeline and the requirements to conform with the financial regulations for the formal procurement process for the IT tender, which ends in October 2026. The recommendation really essentially is to ask members to consider to nominate some members to be signatories, if you like, to the formal tender opening process, which will be in a few months' time at the conclusion of the procurement cycle. So,
Thank you. Yep. Any questions? Sorry, Councillor Straw and then Councillor Barrett.
I think noting the report is quite right. As to nominating members at this stage so far in advance, I personally think it's too far in advance. I think it would be far more preferable when we actually have set dates so that members can make sure that they're available, because if it's in August, some members may be on holiday. It just depends on which date in August. So I think it's premature to actually nominate the members at this stage, but subject to that, I welcome the report that is in hand and ask that the officers proceed as suggested.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barrett, do you want to add anything?
I just wasn't clear really whether what we were asking them to tender for was the same service, a better service, lesser service, more expensive, lesser price, or whatever. That was all.
Yeah,
what are we actually going to evaluate?
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Saini to answer that one.
So thanks, Rose. The specification will be similar to the current situation, so it's sort of steady state. Clearly, there'll be several criteria in the evaluation process, one of which will be best value, but good support, 24/7, etc., whenever it's required, essentially, according to what the specification sets out. So we will see how that kind of pans out. We know what our budget is. We have not obviously said that to anyone, declared that to anyone at all. So we'll see what kind of bids come in. The last time we ran this exercise, I think I recall we had about 14 companies which approached us. So it's quite a detailed, long, elaborate process, but it's fine. But it'll all come out in the evaluation.
Okay, so we're looking at a steady state kind of bid. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Foster.
I think I'm with Councillor Barrett on this one. I appreciate it is I guess in some ways an operational matter, but the fact that members are being asked to review a tender without knowing what the specifications is at that point, I for one don't know exactly the sort of what the IT tender looks like, what kit we have, what individual officers have, etc. Perhaps nor should I, but I think if we've got members that are going to be asked to reevaluate a tender, we should have at least an understanding of what's being put out to tender. Is this going out on the normal tender or the normal tender site in the normal way? So would it be okay for this to be shared with members that are interested, or is it on the normal? So we've got at least an understanding what we're looking at. I think it's really would be helpful. Clearly, we've got an incumbent provider. I think they're in a good position, but that doesn't automatically mean that it's going to follow on. So. I appreciate the fact that we don't directly communicate them what the budget is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, I'm just thinking members who've raised the issues over what's included in the tender, particularly those with IT expertise, which certainly I would not be wishing to comment on because I have not got that expertise, but there's several here who've got far better IT knowledge than I have. Perhaps they in particular could be asked to look at what the proposed tender is in terms of the basics before it actually goes out to the government, because it will undoubtedly have changed over the last few years. The IT world is changing so rapidly. I'm sure that there's experienced things that will not be in the current contract that need to be in the new one. So perhaps that could be considered by officers.
Okay. Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Russell.
I completely agree with all the other comments. I was just thinking that are there other things that we might need IT? There are potential changes to the way we may be running meetings in the future. We may perhaps be allowing people to be interacting in certain ways. Are we sure that we're going to be able to cope with all of that in the next year or two? Have we got those provisions in place, and would we include those sorts of things in our thinking now? So steady state's great, but I just wondered if we'd actually start to think of what next? That was all.
Okay, that's got good points. Councillor Russell?
As somebody who's not IT literate, I'm just slightly concerned about whether we now gold plate the specification and go way above the budget that we've set. So I think we need to be a bit careful. And if we need to have a discussion, then I think that needs to be probably a working group that sits down and with officers and goes through it, rather than just trying to do it by individual submissions from colleagues who know more than I do.
Okay.
But I do think we need to worry about the budget for all of this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones and then Councillor Knight.
Can I suggest that when you come to putting the brief together for the tender, that's shared, and as part of the brief, there would be an invitation to companies to potentially showcase what other opportunities there are for us for the future, and that would allow us to have visibility of some of that, rather than another working group or officers having to do all the research into understanding it. Let the experts bring the offers to us potentially, because that would be part of a normal tender to future-proof something. That's how I would run it when I'm putting my briefs together. So, and that, you know, put the burden where the subject matter expert is, and invite them to put that as part of their tender to us, and that allows us to explore some of that. And then if we decide they're the right company to enter into negotiations with, we can then consider some of that, a bit like we did with the cybersecurity.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, just something else to consider.
No, that's definitely a suggestion. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. I guess an observation. I don't know how long, what the duration is of the proposed agreement, or what the last duration was. It kind of crosses my mind that the whole tender process is very expensive in terms of officer time, in terms of preparing the tender, evaluating. So I hope the contract period isn't too short, but maybe you can answer that in a moment. I guess the other observation I have, a lot of the costs are probably third-party costs. So with whatever supplier we have, you know, the license costs for Microsoft software or for Zoom are going to be broadly flat, whoever you go with. So the delta is probably quite modest, I suggest, the potential for there to be significant swings, because it's not as if the supplier is going to be providing their software, they're just going to be reselling someone else's. And they may have slightly different margins or markups. And I think I guess my parting comment is, actually, I think the IT in this council is really good. And I know we have had a lot of issues in this room in particular. It's all sorted. So I hope we can avoid disruptive changes. So whilst there may be an opportunity to save a little bit of money, I think we need to balance the cost versus the cost of officer time versus the opportunity. But I'd certainly be happy to glance over the tender spec if that's helpful.
Okay, right. I'm conscious this is an item for information, so and lots of people have given commentary and everything else, which is great, because I think it's an important topic and it's something we all need to be engaged in. We now need to give a bit of direction to the officers how they take things forward. So I'm trying to sort of pluck out some of the themes that we've picked up on. I think members do need to be involved in the process in some way, whether that's in terms of the tender and it circulates amongst colleagues who are particularly IT minded. That would be one way. I think Councillor Jones's idea is quite an interesting one about essentially getting people to pitch their wares to us rather than doing the other way around. We might get more out of them, perhaps. I am a bit loath to suggest another working group, perhaps, because I know we're all quite busy and so on and so forth. But I think we do need some further member engagement on that. So, okay, go on.
Having heard the discussion and everything, by the way, I think it's 3 years plus 1 year is what the standard sort of term we'd be looking for going ahead. So we're happy to pull together a specification, because I think we've nearly done that, haven't we?
Okay.
To be fair, and obviously share that with members anyway, and with your, you know, with any views for input. The specification can also be, as has been suggested, forward-looking. So it would be a sort of steady state, but looking to the future as well, in terms of any AI that needs to be built in, or other models. I'll pause there, I think.
Yeah, Ernest.
Yeah, just wanted to make a quick comment that the specification has already, the current IT provider has already looked through the specification, so it's almost ready to go. But just casting my mind back into the financial regulation regarding tenders, I think the procedure for members to get involved is only to open the envelopes, and then once officers have completed the evaluation, it will come back to council for them to agree, basically. So maybe at that point, members will be able to see the specification and select out of the number of suppliers that has been agreed by of officers. If
I take your point, Ernest, but the problem with that is that it's probably creating lots of rework and officer time. Whereas I think if we can get it right to start with, we would be saving people's time. But I don't want to take comments. Councillor Foster, you were going to say something, or
I'll just make the point.
I heard you in my ear, and then I guess Councillor Barrett.
Make the point that we were looking to be supportive and understanding what the specification looks like in advance of it going out to tender, so that we might, so not after the event, because as you've alluded to there, Chairman, that there may be rework. So it's an understanding with interested parties. Not every member is going to be interested in the IT of the council. Some have got more experience than others. So I think it should be sent out. The document that the finance and administration officers has created, that comes out for members to have to review, and then at that point we can provide some feedback. Yeah, so not a so we're not wasting time at the end if there's something that we could benefit from.
Absolutely. Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Agnew.
To help with the extra services, often you would put something like, please feel free to offer any pertinent value-added services you may like to make us aware of, which is often what you put into a tender document to summarise the additional things that might be there that you wouldn't necessarily evaluate. So you would identify you're not using that as part of the evaluation, but the things that we might need to know about, which then covers off the financial aspect, because we need to ring fence that in the evaluation, but we do need to know about the additional things that we could consider as a council for other things. I think that might be a way of doing it too.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Agnew.
We typically, when we do tenders where I work, there's always a story of as is and to be, which you partially touched upon. So as long as the current node gives us the specification, this is our as is story, as it is.
Yeah.
We could actually do a one-off meeting to decide briefly what is the extra we need. But I tend to agree with Council Knight that we shouldn't be shooting ourselves in the foot and trying to ask for something that frankly we might not need and will blow up the cost. So as long as we have a rough understanding what to be looks like for us, that is the brief you are then sending to the companies that will be taking part in the tender, because you must task them to provide with a comprehensive and clear brief to us what exactly they're pitching above the as is. So to your point, Jonathan, if we want to do the steps, we could take the existing node, maybe simplify, and then add whatever extras. I mean, I would even consult that AI is really a big top. We have to really be very absolutely sure what of the AI we're taking.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we can just take ourselves into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Councillor Matt. We need to really be prudent.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Agnew. Okay, so I think, trying to summarise all that, I think leading on from Karim's point, circulating the existing as-is bid, or the as-is tender rather, to council colleagues, and then I think maybe colleagues, if those who are particularly interested, rather than it being a blanket thing, can then feedback directly to you, and then it may be appropriate to have a further meeting perhaps on the back of that, and we'll go from there. Because I think it's going to be an emerging process. I don't think it's something we can just decide in one hit. So, okay, are we all happy with that? Right, okay, you've got some direction. Okay, good. So I'm conscious it was only for informations, but you've had a steer. You've had a steer, right, okay. 13D then, standing orders. any further? Well, it's just a comment really. With that's where we are. We talked about this at length the other day, didn't we? Councillor Strawn.
I think it's important that it's just noted because Mr. Boyle was concerned about the audit trail, so that the auditors can see that we have reviewed them and decided that at the moment there's no change needed, but there'll be a further review. That it needs to be minuted to that effect,
yes,
so that it's shown for when the internal audit and the full audit are carried out.
No, that's right, and I think we're satisfied that there are no sort of change now, but we would review them sort of once a council term. I think was the other element of it, which we hadn't got to yet, but this should suffice, I think, for this financial year. Okay, good. Okay, item E. The Stratton Community Farm consultation. It's nice to see some activity, I think, on that site again. But any comments, questions? Councillor North.
Yeah, which site? Where is this?
It's the old school farm at Stratton
farm,
School. Yeah,
oh, right.
Yeah. Right at the bottom of Eagle Farm Road, there is a new gateway, I believe, that's been installed and a sort of path on the way in. Yes. I haven't seen it myself, but that's where it's located, I believe.
Thank you.
Yeah. One suggestion I had, I think some members of the council are going to be going to some of these events at different intervals to get a bit more information, but would colleagues be interested in maybe hearing a bit more detail from them if we invited them for a presentation, for example, if we wanted to invite the community farm along to a future council meeting, would that be of interest?
They are having open days, so just go to them.
Well, yeah, but it's just if the things progress or whatever, I think we.
Well, I'm going to go on the 14th, so that's the first opportunity.
We'll see.
I can feedback if you.
Councillor Barrett.
I think the key thing is to make sure that residents are aware of these dates more than us. Yes, but very much residents. I'm not sure they are necessarily.
No, I mean, I've seen it advertised on the Beds RCC Facebook page, I think, but other than that, I haven't seen it. So maybe it could be incumbent on all of us to promote that where we can. Councillor Strawn.
And from Councillor Barrett's point, would it not be possible just to put a note on our website that this consultation is there? Then that would seem to be the sensible thing, that we are actually being proactive in making the public aware of it.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure that will happen, but I will ask Mr. Hosseini to check that the town council, certainly Facebook page and website, can share that where appropriate. Yeah, I think it may have been done already, but can we make sure that happens again? Just another go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great. So item F, then the ICB information. We've got a written response. It is what it is, really.
Is it okay to say no comment?
I'll leave that to colleagues, but Councillor Foster, you want to say something?
I think it's a comprehensive document that records the questions and the responses. There are perhaps unanswered questions within the document, but it alludes to potential changes that might be afoot. I think there's some demand for healthcare within the town, and the fact that the facilities perhaps may be changing, and that we need to consider that as part of the consultation for Thamesville and other areas. I suspect that this document is perhaps more transparent than I thought it might be, if I'm honest. I think there's quite a lot of information in there that perhaps might not have been in the public domain before. So interesting to see what responses are on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, we have in the past met with the local surgeries as well as with the ICB, and yes, there's a lot in this report, but I still think it'd be very useful to have an update from the local surgeries as to how things are progressing, and so that we can share the necessary viewpoints that we may have, particularly as well the extension, I understand, for the Ivor Medical Centre is for 2 or 3 years more now. So that at least is giving some sign of a permanence, which was only a short-term contract initially. So I think I had hoped there'd be more that would have actually come out on that side at the joint committee, but as it hasn't, perhaps we could arrange a meeting with the local surgeries and appropriate other bodies, including potentially our MP, as we've had previously, because it's quite a time since we last met and a lot of things have happened since.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Strawn. I mean, I'm pleased that the joint committee had this on their agenda. I think that's an important thing for them to do, putting CBC and the town council together. I do know that Asia has approached the surgeries, because I've given her some of the contact details, and letters have gone out and all the rest of it, requesting a meeting. So that has come from the town council perspective. Well, I don't know if we had a response yet, but we've certainly reached out to them. So that is already hopefully happening, but let's see if we get a response soon. Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Russell.
Yeah, I'm a sort of serious point in reading through all of the information. One of the things that came out for me was that the way the financial decisions are being made are working around geographical decisions around different towns within our county. And I don't think the demographics and the health requirements in those different towns is the same as Biggleswade, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, being very sort of selfish about it.
No,
and I think as a result of us being lumped in with other demographics like that, we're losing out. So it's a serious comment that I think we should be asking the ICB to look at the makeup of us as a town and how different it is to the other towns that they're also including us in at the moment, and then rethink some of their service provisions. And that also goes on to the point that was made earlier on about Tempsford, that with all the changes that are happening then, it's going to change again the demographics of the people that are coming in, the types of people who can be buying the new houses, etc., the shared ownerships, the social housing, etc. And I really think the ICB should be thinking in a different way than this report is suggesting.
Yeah, no, I quite agree. I think the demographic points are really well made. I just worry at the moment. I mean, we can raise that, but because they keep saying that they're being restructured, and will the right email get to the right person? But whether we come back to that saying 3 months when things are a bit more settled, but maybe it's something we can have on the agenda, Asia, perhaps to follow up in a few months' time to make sure they have taken into account the demographics and all these other things as well. So it's a really important point. I think Biggleswade town, as it's growing, is very different from other areas. So yeah, Councillor Russell.
In response to what Councillor Barrett has just said, the impression I got from the ICB when they came to the joint committee meeting was that they were simply looking at the buildings they'd got and trying to make use of the better buildings and get rid of the buildings that weren't where they needed to be, which is totally ridiculous, actually. It didn't have any, wasn't taking into account anything about what services were required where. But that was really what came across. But I was just going to point out that we're hoping that we get an officer and cabinet member from Central Bedfordshire at the next joint committee meeting, as in the report here, to try and take things forward with them. They are supposed to work more closely with health now, and what are they doing? And are they recognising the points that have been made by colleagues around the table?
Good. No, thank you. Councillor Jones and Councillor Knight.
Thank you. And I think just building on for what Councillor Russell said and what Councillor Barrett said, when I read this, the first thing that went through my mind was just disappointed. And to be honest, I'm really frustrated by it. Even I did get excited towards the end in point 10, where it spoke about they'd spotted an opportunity for better provision for pharmacies, especially after 5:30 on a Saturday and some provision on Sundays, which I would wholeheartedly support, having to be in the position like many of us locally. We have to drive 12 miles just to get to a pharmacy. It's very frustrating. But at the bottom, it says, at present, this remains an area for potential exploration rather than a confirmed plan. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, literally, what is the point? As I said, Councillor Barrett and Councillor Russell's point, especially when you think about how we become future fit, ready for Tempsford coming in, it's their stats versus geography. And I know our ward councillors, some of them have done a really great job in raising this issue. But even just to our points around the table of we'll follow up in a few months, it's just too slow. And I think we need to keep up the pressure. Waiting 2 or 3 months, I appreciate that's how things work, but the more pressure we put on, the better. So I would argue to have it done, followed up more regularly and to add more pressure. Because at the moment, the pace we're going at isn't achieving a single thing.
No, okay. No, I mean, I would agree. I just think obviously they're in such a state of flux, aren't they, at the moment with the ICB? That's what concerns me. I hadn't fully appreciated the pharmacy point, and of course, you know, as you've just said, a number of people around the table will recognise having to go all the way to Bedford primarily, or even St Neots, just to get a prescription on a Sunday, which is just absurd. So, I mean, if we could make some progress even on that one issue, that would be helpful, especially as we do have 3-4 pharmacies in town anyway. So, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. I think we do need a structured way to answer some of these questions that come back to us. So question 6, for example, you know, we've asked, when can we expect to see meaningful change? And the response is, we'd like to understand what change you'd like to see. Okay, so how do we respond to that? I know what I would like to see. You know, my 2 pet issues are, I really am quite scared that people are being sent to Stevenage or Bedford to get blood tests, basic diagnostic tests, which are now required for almost every occasion you visit a GP. And I fear that people are therefore, people are choosing not to go to see their doctor because they don't want to be told they need a blood test and then they have to get themselves to Stevenage.
Yeah.
I heard of one story from someone today who couldn't get a blood test within a reasonable amount of time at Stevenage, and the GP actually backed down and said, okay, you can have it here then. So they clearly have the capability, but they're choosing to send people to Stevenage or Bedford, and I don't really understand those reasons. The other issue I'm very acutely aware of is this business on the phone at 9 o'clock in the morning that's turned from a phone call queue to a web queue, because now I'm aware of repeated incidents where you try to get an online booking request form at 9 o'clock in the morning, and either you're confronted with a, sorry, we have no more available slots today on the web. Well, that's not great, is it? Or even worse, you get 404 errors because the website's overwhelmed.
Yes.
So it's a fundamental problem accessing the service. Not everyone can get on the web at 9 o'clock in the morning because they're at work and they're not allowed to take their phones with them. So again, there's a whole set of disadvantaged people. Yeah. That's just my opinion. So we need a structured way to go through the issues that this community is having and to write them down in a very formal way and to communicate them back to the ICB.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strachan.
This comes back to why I was suggesting the meeting with the GP surgeries, because it's crazy. They have an online booking system for repeat medication, yet half the time it's unavailable because it's not available, which is absolutely ridiculous because it should be 24/7 in my view. And just
there's a website, I mean, it should be, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. But just on another very practical issue, because I'm very old and decrepit, I'm actually allowed to have blood tests in Biggleswade. So the elderly should be able to insist on it, but I don't see why everybody can't, because they don't seem to have a massive queue for blood tests when I'm there.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councillor Strachan. Councillor Jones, and then we'll move on, I think.
Just in the interest of balance, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but I would argue that actually the recent changes to the online booking system are working really well. And I think if you speak to the surgeries as well, they say there's been improvements. However, I appreciate that doesn't work for absolutely anybody, and different surgeries have different rules. But my understanding, and I would ask the surgeries to come back to us with this answer, is that they do have workarounds for people who don't have access necessarily to utilise technology to the way that the majority of us would. And I think, at least at my surgery, I don't know about the other one, but we can get online from 8. And it does work, but I would appreciate if something comes up at 10 o'clock and you go online, you can't get one. But then I do know they hold 111 hold appointments back at all the local surgeries as well for cases. So if you go through using that way, there are different access points. However, 111 is not as easy a process to use as perhaps interacting with your local surgery, but just for balance purposes.
No, understood. So just for some reassurance, I know that Asia's written to the surgeries and hopefully we'll hear back from them soon. If not, we'll chase them, I guess, in the next week or so. But that is already, you know, already in train, as it were. Okay, I think we'll come back to this. I think, but there's lots to consider, but we've kind of running out of time this evening, so we'll move on. 13G, CBC road scheme variation of charges. Councillor Russell.
I think this is to note, but interestingly, Chestnut Avenue, somebody actually approached me in the Market Square this morning and said that there's misinformation on the machines in Chestnut Avenue because there's something on the machine as I was told,
Okay.
says that it's only 1 hour free parking at Chestnut Avenue. So can we please check that Chestnut Avenue is according to what's on this report? Just, I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked, but somebody actually came up to me and asked about it. Is it right? Yeah.
So 1 hour.
So we need to get that right, because obviously it's got to be as this.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. We can check that. Great. Okay, that was item information. So item number 14 then. Public open session. Is there anyone online that wishes to join us? No, that's great. Okay, bear with me while I read War and Peace. I mean, sorry, the moving to the present sessions. Okay. I move that in accordance with brackets or pursuant to bracket, close bracket, section 1 brackets 2 of the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded from the following items on the grounds of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. And we have a number of items, I won't list them all, but in our exempt session. So can we all vote in favour or otherwise of that? Yes. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so members have now voted that this meeting now be closed, so that we can move into exempt session in accordance with or pursuant to section 1(2) of the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act. The press and public be excluded from the following items on the grounds of confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Thank you very much.